Hey guys, welcome back to this channel. Now in this video I'm going to do a short review on Peach Bitcoin, which is a P2P cryptocurrency exchange that is accessible on your mobile phone as an application. And for those that are familiar with BISC, it's somewhat similar for good and for bad. Now I would say that BISC has tried to model itself to be very decentralized and extremely privacy focused. And I think it's not so terrible for sellers, but I want to make the point that the reason why I don't think it's a good platform is because it is very, very bad to use as a seller. And if it's bad for the sellers, it'll ultimately be bad for the buyers, because if sellers aren't encouraged to use the platform because it's just not good for them, then ultimately there'll be fewer sellers. And if there's fewer sellers, the rates will go up because sellers ultimately compete with each other to lower the rates, which ultimately makes it bad for the buyer. I feel like BISC and especially Peach is the kind of place that is meant for buyers, and it's not really meant for like merchants in mind. And as a result, I imagine these kinds of like things like, BISC and Peach, they're a little hard to scale up and become as large as some of the other P2P crypto exchanges. And it's not necessarily because they're just harder to use, it's just that it's really hard for a seller to use. Anyway, let's just get straight into it. But before I go into it, just want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Local CoinSwap. It's a P2P crypto exchange where you can buy crypto without any KYC, and you can buy crypto using a multitude of different payment methods. Now, I'm going to get into Peach exchange, but just as a little spoiler for some of the reasons why I don't like Peach and why I prefer to use something like Local CoinSwap is because there's more volume. At the end of the day, you should try and use the place that has more people on it. If it's got more people on it, it's got more sellers on it. If it's got more sellers on it, the price is going to be better, and you're going to have more options for what you can trade, right? So on Local CoinSwap, you've got hundreds of different payment methods, and it's not just that they've got access to them, it's the fact that you've got a whole economy around each payment method with a lot of sellers, a lot of buyers, a lot of liquidity. And this is what's going to make your time as a buyer much better. And if you want to be a seller, I think it's also really good for that as well. You can make some good money on there by selling crypto above market rate, giving people what they really want, which is the ability to buy cryptocurrency using their preferred payment method and perhaps without KYC. So if you want to use my referral link, you can do so in the description down below or in the comments section below. So I've just got some footage of Peach being used in the background. Although I'm not going to show anything specifically, I'm just showing generally what it looks like while I kind of go on my rant about Peach. So I'll say first and foremost, I try to go there to sell crypto via TransferWise. And my very first transaction was someone trying to scam me. Now, I've been on practically every single P2P exchange to try and sell, and never have I been someone try to scam me on the very first attempt. And I'm also thinking about things like Packs Full of Noons, where there's far more scammers on there than anywhere else I have seen. But Peach might actually break a record for that. I mean, the very first transaction, someone tried to scam me. Now, there's a few reasons why this was such a difficult situation to be in. I actually almost lost that dispute with the scammer because of the way the website is, that the app is laid out. So number one, as a seller, I can't filter for who I want to do a deal with, right? So when I have an offering on a different crypto exchange, we'll just say Local CoinSwap, HODL, BitValve, whatever, in my description, I can write, you're only allowed to trade if you're XYZ person. Maybe you've got to be from this country. Maybe you've got to have this thing. Maybe you've got to send me a screenshot showing that you've got proof of funds, etc., etc. I can actually filter who I can deal with. But, on Peach, you have no ability to create your own description. So you can't say, hey guys, you can only trade if you're from this country. You can only trade if you're from this bank. Let's just say you're doing SEPA Instant. Maybe there's a bank that you just can't trade with. Maybe it's some German bank or some, you can't, for some reason, you just can't deal with Eastern European banks in the EU. And usually in a normal P2P exchange, you would clarify that and say, guys, I don't accept Sparkasse. I don't I don't accept BBVA. I don't accept like these different exchanges, these different banks, that is. So what's going to happen is you're going to open up your offer, and you're going to have all the people that you don't want to deal with dealing with you, right? And you can't provide any like instructions beforehand or anything else, right? So maybe on a particular, like, like every single payment method, typically there's going to be some like nuance to it. Like it's important to provide some details to the buyer so they know what they're getting into, right? It's very rare that you've got a payment method where someone can simply just copy and paste your payment details and then send payment. It doesn't always work like that. Like for instance, like on Revolut, there's many different ways of sending payment. Maybe someone doesn't accept funds via RevTag, right? Because many of them don't, because there's actually the possibility of getting chargeback scammed. So there's different ways of being able to send funds that don't involve that particular method, RevTag, right? There's a few others, like might be, Revolut to bank account, Revolut card to card. There's all these different methods, and that requires a bit of explanation. Like you don't want someone just opening up a trade with you and, and them not knowing what your terms and conditions are. You want the ability to set terms and conditions, when a buyer opens up a trade with you, but you don't get that option. So you have to wait for a buyer to open up a trade with you, and then a chat will then open, and then you send that information. So pretty much when someone tried to scam me, I couldn't give all the information. He just, I didn't even send any payment information, in fact, because part of my payment offer was that they had to follow certain instructions, and I had to talk to them first. I didn't really get that opportunity, so the scammer could then just open up a trade with me and just instantly hit mark as paid, and he could then say, oh look, I've sent payment and stuff like that, and it would have to take the mod like a bit of a while to understand like exactly how I was operating. And usually this wouldn't be the case, because if I've already written in my description, which pretty much acts as my terms and conditions for trading, if I've already written, what you can and can't do in the trade, that will prevent most scammers from being able to ply their trade, because you've told them what they can and can't do. And if they, open the trade and they do what is against your terms and conditions, it's very easy for the moderator to essentially side with you. And there's another thing that really bothers me about Peach Bitcoin, and that's that you're only allowed to buy and sell a specific amount. So what am I talking about here? Well, let's just say in your bank account, you've got $345, and you want to sell that exact amount because that's what you've got. And you've decided you want to, buy Bitcoin with everything you've got in your bank account, because why not, right? You should be able to do that. Well, you can't do that, because all the sellers, for some reason, are only allowed to sell a specific amount of Bitcoin. So let's just say they want to sell $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. You can't go and open up a trade with them for 333 Bitcoin. You can't open up for $750.20, right? They have to sell like a very specific amount of Bitcoin, and that's it. So it's like, oh, I'm going to sell like, $800 worth of Bitcoin. I'm going to sell $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. And so when buyers come, they can only buy that exact amount of Bitcoin. Isn't that kind of inconvenient? I mean, that really removes a lot of choice. It's so different to other exchanges. BISC has a similar problem. I really don't like it, but even then they've got a small range. I won't go into the details of BISC and why I don't like it. I just don't like it. But it, at least with them, you can actually buy a range. But with Peach, you have to buy an exact amount. Like, why would you want to buy that, right? It's just not really simple. So most of the reasons why I don't like Peach is really from the seller's perspective. And a lot of you who are interested, be interested in just, what's it like when you buy? Well, at the end of the day, if sellers don't like it, buyers aren't going to like it, because when you go and log on to Peach, what you're going to find is it's going to show the average percentage is, right? And you'll find that it's like upwards of 10%. So the average amount that you'd pay above market rate is going to be above 10%. Why is that? There's just not enough sellers. There's not enough serious sellers that are doing this like at a professional level. You've got, amateurs, and I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I'm just saying like people doing this for fun, people selling Bitcoin because they like Bitcoin, and isn't this a joy, right? You don't really have, these hardcore sellers that, are, working day and night to try and be the most competitive on the platform, making them, have the cheapest offer and, trying to be, the fastest and take as many orders as they can. Those people don't want to deal on this website because it's bad for them. So you're going to be dealing with these amateurs. Again, no offense at all to, people selling on there, but like, the point is that all the buyers are competing for those few amateur traders, and those amateur traders really, it's a seller's market. They can charge as much as they want. They're not really, at least I guess they can make some money out of it. But the thing is as well, you can only get like a small amount of payment methods afforded on this platform. The only payment methods that can actually do well on this platform are ones that are so extremely straightforward. So for instance, let's just say someone's selling with a bank account, and in their details, they can just put like their account number and their name and maybe their bank. That's pretty much about it. If it requires any more complexity beyond that, they won't be able to do it, right? So that way, sales can happen easily, right? Or if it's like TransferWise or RevTag, maybe they have a Wise tag or a Rev tag, right? And as long as it's like just extremely simple, then sellers can sell. But that really excludes a lot of different payment methods that actually require some amount of complexity and instruction, which, that cuts out like most of them, to be honest. So you'll have some really simple payment methods, but this isn't gonna be the kind of platform where you'll end up being able to buy, like all kinds of different things, right? You've got to have some really simple ones. And on one final note, when it comes to limitations, like Peach only has like a handful of currencies. Like what on earth? Why would it only have a handful of currencies? It doesn't even have US dollars, right? And I think like as a very decentralized exchange that has a lot of anonymity for the buyers and sellers, the exchange and whoever made it feels so pulled at the balls by whoever, I don't know who, probably some Euro regulator. We know how that goes, and they just can't provide US dollars, right? Like it's weird. Like this is the #1 currency. Why on earth can't you do US dollars? That holds them back. And it's not just that. It's like also like Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, like a bunch of the top ones. Asian currencies. They don't have any of them. They've got like just a bunch of the top European ones. So pretty much it's only good for euros and maybe British pounds. Like no one cares about like, the random Eastern European ones. So pretty much it's just got euros, GBP, and then a random assortment of just a few Latin American ones. So this is like not really painting a broad stroke brush that would be able to be able to onboard as many people as possible, because only a certain amount of people would use euros. Only a certain amount of people can use the limited amount of payment methods on there. And at the end of the day, it's not a good exchange. Use my referral link in the description down below if you want to use a P2P crypto exchange that I would actually recommend. I think Local CoinSwap #1, HODL HODL #2, BitValve #3, and if you're into XMR, then you've got BitPapa. So you can use my referral link in the description down below, and I'll see you next time.